Figure it out.
Hello, this is Adam Koralik from Figured Out Productions. The following video is a video of some kind, and I hope you enjoy it.
Hey guys, it's Adam here, and today we're going to be talking about this gigantic package that I received from 1UP Restorations. Before we do that though, if you guys could do me a favor, please like this video, comment down below, subscribe if you've never done that before, as well as check out all the social media stuff in the description. I've got Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Discord, Patreon, Spreadshirt, Travel Channel, etc. I appreciate the support on those platforms. Thank you so much. Let's go ahead and get into it. Now, it should be obvious, not only based on the title and the thumbnail and all that sort of stuff, but yeah, you see a Sega Genesis 32X combo here. So yeah, it's pretty obvious what's in the package, and I'm excited about it. So as I mentioned, this came from 1UP Restorations, which is a buddy of mine. His name is George. He lives out in New York, and he's one of the guys who helps to run Long Island Retro. And awesome guy. He has his own channel. You can check that out too, where he does a lot of repairs and things like that. Really, really a cool guy. And so he did this for me as like a huge favor because he really didn't have to. Getting these things made is comically expensive because, well, you'll see in a minute, but like the shells for it, you have to buy from this Chinese company, and they're just because you hear Chinese in it, you think, oh, they're cheap. No, they're not. They're very expensive. So they're only a little bit cheaper when you buy them in, you know, semi-bulk orders. But bulk orders meaning like 5 of them, you know, as opposed to like 500 or whatever. So those are expensive. The parts required for it, you know, you're talking about literally needing a Sega Genesis as well as a 32X, and then the labor. So these things, depending on how you go about it, can be like over $1,000. I didn't have to pay anywhere near that. He just charged me for parts, which was only a couple $100, so I was pretty happy about that. So huge shout out to George, because he did not have to do this, but he did it anyway. So let's go ahead and take a look at it. While we open it up here, so basically where this kind of came from was, I was talking to him at Long Island Retro. They actually had one of these on display, and I was like, oh my God, like I want one of those so bad. Who's responsible for this? Only to find out it's my boy George. And I was like, what do we do here? And he's like, well, I can make you one. We just have to order them in bulk, you know, again, like 5 of them. And so if you can find like a bunch of people who want them, you know, it'll make it cheaper for all of us. And I was like, oh, I got guys. So a couple of my buddies were like, yes, I'm on board. So they're in various states of having their own one of these. Some of them decided they just wanted the parts, meaning the shells. Other ones said they want the whole kit and caboodle like I got. So yeah, but mine's here. Let's go take a look at it. So inside we got a bunch of bubble wrap. More bubble wrap. The main piece, no doubt, is this. And I don't think there's going to be anything else down here. Just get that off to the side. Yeah, it's all bubble wrap. So here's the main piece. And let's cut through the tape. And there she is. We have our own, very own Sega Neptune. Wow. It's a reproduction, obviously. Okay, so what's the deal here, and what's this extra piece? Well, let me go ahead and put that on there real quick. So, if you are unfamiliar with your video game history, I very recently did a video on the Sega 32X reaching its 30th anniversary, and I thought, you know, a lot of people. Here's what I don't get. Suddenly, the 32X has a lot more attention on it. That video did pretty well, but also a lot more people are talking about the 32X in general, not just outside of this, but there's a lot more attention on the Neptune now. Now, the Neptune was basically an attempt by Sega to combine these two pieces. Long story short, with the 32X, Sega basically, you know, Sega of America was kind of forced to make an add-on for the Genesis to kind of say, hey, that's going to be our 5th gen platform, and ultimately that didn't pan out. But for a hot minute there, when it was kind of working, and before they were convinced they were going to be bringing the Saturn over, there was a debate about maybe we should just make a standalone console. That would have been the Neptune. Only one was ever produced. Only one real one exists. I've actually done a video on it. It's at the National Video Game Museum in Frisco, Texas. I got to have intimate access to it, take a bunch of video of it and everything, and it was really an honor to be part of that. What I don't understand is why suddenly the Neptune as a concept is more popular. Not only do these shells now exist, there's like an effort to make these, not like, I must stress this, George didn't make these shells. He did not make this case. He just bought them from a company that is making them. What he did was basically take the guts of a 32X and a Genesis and do a lot of work to put them all together to make it fit in this shell. We'll talk about that a little bit more in a minute. But the fact that that exists is already crazy. And then secondly, there is now, I'm sure people will bring it up, there's a company in Brazil now making an FPGA version of the Neptune. They have like a gray version of the case, and it too will play Genesis or Mega Drive more accurately, probably in their case, and 32X games, as well as theirs is going to have other little bells and whistles on it. But where all that came from, I don't know. And I say this as the guy who wanders around with the Sega Pluto. I'm just like, what up? Why does nobody care about the Pluto? Why do you all suddenly care about the Neptune? What am I doing wrong? No, but all right. I'm glad people like it, and I obviously wanted one. So this is going to be just, it's a really cool piece. It looks really nice. So the stencil work, George actually did that himself. Like, so where it says Genesis 32X and Sega on it. So from a design standpoint, on the bottom, you'll see there's some company's name, DVIZIX. I don't know how you're supposed to pronounce that, but that's cool. There's also little stickers on the bottom. I'm assuming those were taken off of the Genesis Model 2 that was sacrificed for this. I don't really know that. But the designs on the bottom are kind of based on what we know about the real Neptune. On the front, it says controller ports 1 and 2. On the side, there is actually the Sega CD expansion ports. What's interesting about that, though, is that it has screws in it holding it in there, so I need a screwdriver to take that out. But it totally works, by the way. You can plug that in to a Model 1 or Model 2 Sega CD, probably more Model 2 because it looks better, because it's designed for the same footprint. But yeah, it'll work on that, so you can have the Tower of Power minus the tower part, which is kind of surreal. On the back, of course, it has video output. So he also did the triple bypass mod in this thing, so that allows like a superior RGB format out of it. So it's more compatible with things like the HD Retrovision cables and SCART cables. Like, so basically, I don't even know if the composite stuff works anywhere. I don't care. I wouldn't use it anyway. And then, of course, it has the power supply back there. The only knocks against it, and he was very clear about this, so the original 32X has a cartridge, like spring-loaded area for the cartridge slot, I should say. Whereas the Neptune, at least this version of it, this shell does not. There's no such thing. Instead, it's just a piece of plastic that kind of just sits in there over the cartridge slot. It looks like a spring load, but it's not. You just kind of take it out and remove it. I'm not a huge fan of that. It's not like a deal breaker by any stretch of the imagination. It's just an odd choice, but I'm sure they did that to cut costs. I mean, and trust me, there was a lot of costs with this thing. And then from a design perspective, and George warned me about this, he's like, just the way the shell is versus the boards you have to put in it. The reset button is usually pretty good, but the power button can get kind of stuck. And so he's like, you typically want to be careful with it and only kind of push it from the side. So yeah, that's cool. But yeah, no, it's such, like even right there, it kind of got stuck. But yeah, no, it'll come back. Okay, there it goes. Yeah. So basically what he said is, don't let anybody who doesn't really know what they're doing handle this platform. Make sure you take care of it yourself. And I would mostly use it as just a display piece, which is largely what I'm going to do. However, it is fully functional. So the interesting thing about the innards is that it actually uses, so obviously I had actually shown you guys a while back, I got a sacrificial 32X specifically for this purpose. But when it comes to the Genesis Model 2, you would think, oh, there's tons of those, that's easy. Turns out not so much. There's a very particular variant of the Model 2 that is more in demand for this purpose because it's from my understanding, it's a very late version of the Model 2 Genesis, used a much smaller, like the shape of the system was the same, but internally the board was much smaller. And he said that while that helps the size, because it's easier to fit everything in there with a smaller board, the other advantage too is it has far fewer soldering points necessary to kind of link the 32X board with it, and that just makes everything easier. So I couldn't find that, but he had a few extras of those, so he was like, I'll just buy one off me, we're good. So yeah, we have the Sega Neptune. Awesome. So give me a few minutes. I'm going to go ahead and set this up, and we'll take a look at it compared to, I don't know, a few other things. As you can see, it's actually connected to a Model 2 Sega CD, and yes, it looks pretty sick. I think it's pretty awesome. Video output-wise, it's using HD Retrovision component cables through a RetroTink 4K onto this monitor. This is just for display purposes, proof of concept. You guys can see it's working. So first, we're actually, believe it or not, we're going to test the Sega CD element of it. Power it up. I will warn you, that power button thing, that's not a joke. It is unfortunate how that seems to stick, and that's just how the shell is. Sucks, but that's you got to go into it understanding this would not be the ideal way to play a Sega 32X. This is purely for super fans who want this type of thing on their shelf, knowing it works if they want to use it, but practically speaking, probably won't use it that way. That said, so what we have here is connected to the Sega CD. So it's the game I decided to go with was actually over there. That is Surgical Strike, the Sega CD 32X combo version. That is an incredibly rare game. So the thing is, there were only 6 official releases for the Sega CD 32X combo where it actually utilized both pieces of hardware in addition to the Genesis or Mega Drive. That one was only released in Brazil in comically limited numbers to the point where it was considered not actually released. But a few years ago, a guy actually found one, and he decided this is such a rare release, let's do like a new print run of it, where he basically just did an unlicensed repro of it. That's the unlicensed repro, which was only 100 printed copies in of itself. So I have one of those. But yeah, that's really cool to have. But as you can see, it all works. It is playing the 32X Sega CD build of that game. So that's awesome. So let's turn the system off. That time it actually turned off on one click. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. Take off our little lid piece here and go with Knuckles Chaotix, a cartridge 32X game. Not a particularly good one, but a game all the same. And as you're going to see, it's going to work on the absolute first try. George did everything right with this from the internals. As you can see, it looks beautiful. That triple bypass mod is very nice. Obviously, it's very reliable as far as the electronics element of it. It functions very, very well. It's really just that button. I have to admit that does suck, but it is what it is. You might have noticed I don't even have a controller in it. I don't need it for the purposes of testing because I was playing on it. It's fun, but to be honest, I was mostly playing Genesis stuff. But the point is it works perfectly. And but yeah, for me, just as like a big fan, the fact that I've had access to the actual Neptune and everything is just really, really cool. Let's see if I can get it to turn off. See, now we're getting into it here. Let's see how many button clicks this is going to take. There we go. All right, we got it off. But yeah, so I think in final consensus, this is really cool for a Sega super fan. Like look at the shirt I'm wearing. It is really cool if you're into this 32X or the Genesis or Mega Drive, etc. This is a really nice display piece. As a practical way to play those games, it's a terrible idea. Because even at the extreme discount that I got it at, and that was really just George deciding to essentially do entirely the work for free, it's still pretty expensive. Now, if you account for what you would have to pay someone like George to build one of these, you're talking about something extremely expensive. And in the end, like the power button isn't even reliable, which is like not his fault. Again, I must stress that's the shell. So that, it's a novelty. You have to be that type of fan who wants it on a shelf, and that's the priority with it. So, know that going in. But that said, I am a freak of nature, and I like my weird, obscure, like unreleased stuff. So I thought kind of the perfect way to end this video is just to show you footage of the Neptune alongside its brother, the Sega Pluto, the official, real Sega Pluto. And, the fan-made Neptune there. But the idea that both of these just kind of coexist in my place at the moment, kind of cool, I'm not gonna lie. So yeah, that's pretty awesome. But yes, that'll do it for now. If you guys want to check it out again, I will put a link in the description to 1UP Restoration, so you can go and support George and his other work as well. Because again, he doesn't just do this; like he also does videos, he does repairs, he does modifications. Like I can't stress this enough. He really just did me a solid on this. It's really awesome. I wish that power button was more reliable, but at the same time, I have to admit, even if it was, this wouldn't be the way I'd want to play the Genesis or 32X games, simply because while it's nice and compact in that regard, it's just such an expensive novelty that I'd really rather it be protected. But that's just me. But all the same, it's really cool that you can actually get access to one of these now. So yes, thank you, George, for making that possible. I hope you guys will say thank you, George, in the comments. But until then, if you guys can do me a favor, if you guys could like this video, comment down below. Maybe just like George down there as well. Or thanks, George. Subscribe if you haven't done that before. And check out all my social media stuff in the description. Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Discord, Patreon, Spreadshirt, Travel Channel, etc. All that stuff's in there. I appreciate the follows and support. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you all later.